I hear you every Friday evening on my phone. I'm so privileged to meet you. My son Sam goes to Washington Center. Sam Gadders. You probably hear him in the hallway. He never stops talking. And I just want to tell you one of the reasons that I'm here is because of Sam. And the work that they do out at Washington Center is amazing. And I'm gonna let Jill just take one and pass them around. There's actually 2 handouts here. My son Sam goes to Washington Center, and the work they do up there, like I said, is absolutely positively amazing. And he loves to be there. He's nonverbal. He's in a wheelchair. He has something called Phelan-McDermid syndrome. It's a genetic deletion. It was discovered here in Greenville in 1982. Actually was given a name in 1993. And when I had Sam, the genetic people at Greenwood Genetics were, woo! We have someone local. This is great. And I'm going, he's never going to leave the house? Oh no, he's never leaving the house. He's never going to go to college? Oh no, he's never going to go into college. Never going to speak. Some of them are runners. Some of them never walk. I have one that doesn't walk, doesn't talk. And has seizures, and was going to be told that he probably would have the mentality of about a 3-month-old. Well, I'm here to tell you of the good work that people out there at Washington Center do. I have a child that flirts, and with am I being taped?
Yes, but I can delete it if you need me to.
Okay, well,
Just let me know.
he could be arrested because he touches Miss Mary Grace's knee quite often, which is his teacher, and he blows her kisses quite often. So he has learned to blow kisses, but it seems to be only with Miss Mary Grace. So for all of those wonderful things that happen, I attribute that to the good works of interventions that happen from things of people in this room and services that are provided by people in this room and people that can provide something that can open the treasure chest. So when I needed a service dog, I thought it was kind of just a cool thing. And I went to an organization and I paid $20,000 out of my pocket. And I actually got Sitka. That's Sitka right here. She is supposed to be a seizure alert dog. And she never alerted the seizures. And I got her home and she has hip dysplasia and she has a kidney issue and she has a thyroid issue. And I never heard from the organization again. And she doesn't sleep with Sam. And she's 10. And Sam is 11. And it was really disappointing. And I'm a business person. I actually run nursing homes. So your presentation was very near and dear to my heart because I take care of a lot of the patients, residents that you deal with. And I said, you know what, I can do this better. I can do this cheaper. And I can do this effectively where you don't have to leave your home for 2 weeks and never get talked to again. So I bring her because, first of all, she kind of does some cool tricks. But she stays in my house, and right now all my puppies are at boarding school, so I didn't have any puppies to bring in. But the power of a dog opens a treasure box for many reasons. And one is our children, or even as an adult, society's afraid to approach them. But they're not afraid to approach an animal. And it's a gap and it's a bridge. And as a parent, I wanted somebody to just say, hey, another kid to go, how did your dog get to go to Walmart with you? You have a dog in here? What is your dog? How does your dog get to go with you here? And it bridges a message of conversation. And now I can tell a story. Now I can tell about Sam. Now I can tell about what this dog does. And all of a sudden, my son is not scary. That wheelchair is not scary. And as a parent, that's all we wanted. That's all we want, is our child not to be scary. As a person that needs assistance, the dogs become functional, and we have to have them be functional. So I have 4 that have gone to college. Anything from a balanced dog, really they're mostly balanced dogs. And these young adults I've met them at Shriners, I've met them at the grocery store, and they've all said the same thing to me, as would never have been able to go to college if I didn't have my dog. One went to Vanderbilt, and this spring, actually she started last week, she's at Greenville Memorial in med school. She is now on her 2nd dog that I've given her. She had Timmy, which was a yellow lab, while she was at Vanderbilt. Timmy actually started out, and we gave her Timmy when Timmy was 3. She recognized the fact that Timmy was going to probably phase out sometime this year, and wanted a nice overlap between her 2 dogs. So I gave her Hank, which, poor Hank, we always say poor Hank. He was supposed to be bred to be the perfect doodle, no shed. So you bring 2 doodles together, perfect doodle. Turned out to be the most high anxiety, worst shedding dog I've ever had. And yet she loves him, and he loves her, because all he wants is her attention. And he's going to medical school, and he started last week. And that's her 2nd dog. I have another one that's in pharmacy school. I have another one that is a web designer, and he's getting his master's degree. And they do everything from opening and closing doors to tethering a child when they're runners. As Penny knows, many of them you see, the kids at Disney World, and the mom has the backpack with the kid and the leash, and they're holding on to the kid. Those are the typical kids. They're not even the kids that we all know. Those are just typical kids. Well, these are the same types of dogs that I do too. So I do what they call tethering for many of our children, where the child has a belt on, maybe a harness on, the mom carries the leash. And we put another leash on the vest, and guess what? You're not going anywhere when a 70-pound dog is laying on the ground. And now that child is safe in a parking lot, in a grocery store, and that dog lays down, and mom can do her debit card when you're in a grocery store, and that child's not going anywhere. And believe it or not, no matter how much of a deficit there is, in about 3 weeks, that child never wants to leave their dog, and all of a sudden they stop running. They pull, and all of a sudden, after about 3 weeks, they're not leaving their dog, and they're starting to hold on to that tether. And they're not going anywhere. I hear the stories constantly from the families that I work with. It's about bridging the gap or finding that treasure box. So a dog can do a bunch of powerful things, but it gives them a best friend. So I started this. I don't do it full time, just like you operate out of your book bag or your rolling suitcase. I'm a nursing home administrator. Started this 7 years ago. I have done 47 dogs here in the local area. I give dogs away to children, young adults. I have done veterans, and I have partnered with even another veterans group, because I can't get enough dogs for veterans. I just have an enormous amount of people that want dogs. I have very specialized dog trainers that I work with and contract with, I partner with, and they go into what I call boarding school. So after they have been socialized for a period of about 6 months, they go into boarding school, and they're in boarding school for about 3 to 5 months, depending on what those skills are and they need. I customize my dogs. So there's no use for me to have Sitka learn how to turn it on and off light switches if Sitka is never going to do that. Why? It just costs more. And that just costs everybody more, and it costs time when the dog can get out. You know, a skill for anybody could be comfort and laying on a child that's having a meltdown. When they're on the floor, pressure, maybe a weighted blanket that you're familiar with. These dogs do the exact same thing, that weighted blanket effect. So laying on them calms someone down. That's a skill, and that's actually allows them to be protected under ADA. So I customize all of them. I'm here local, you know, I'm never going to do 20 dogs a month. I might do 15 dogs a year, and I'm going to do it well. I see all my dogs every year. I'm really big on Facebook, but I have to see my dogs every year because I need to know that they're still okay, that people can afford them. You know, veterinarian costs and food costs, it's about $2,000 to keep up these dogs. It's not, I mean, they get sick. You know, you got to get them on a good food. They have to have heartworm medication. You know, they have to be maintained. And when they want to settle down, they tell you. Sitka told me even again today, I took her to work with me early this morning, and she's telling me right now, I want to land at this table. I don't want to do any tricks because you're going to make me do a trick. Okay. Come here, Sitka. She told me 2 years ago, I don't want to do this anymore. They kind of let you know when they want to retire. I can get about 7 years out of a service dog, and then they just become a really nice household pet. And that's what she is in my house, really. And then I have puppies that come in and out of my house all the time. So my son Sam is always rolling his eyes at me. Again, they told me he would never be able to, you know, have much of a cognitive decision-making capacity. But you know, when your 11-year-old rolls his eyes at you when you bring another puppy into the home, he knows exactly what's going on. He's also a fabulous dog trainer too. You know how to have a dog stop licking your face? You give the 11-year-old puppy, the dog licks your face, Sam opens his mouth, he allows the dog to lick in his mouth, then he bites the tongue of the dog and does not let it go until the dog yelps a horrible screaming yelp, and the dog will never, ever, ever lick your face again. That is the one and only thing that he does, and he trains every single puppy. So I never have a problem where somebody goes, oh, how did he give me a third kiss? Dogs will go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting near anybody's face. So people don't really want kisses on their face. And a child does not want kisses on their face. My dogs don't kiss face because Sam bit their tongue. You know, I have a mission statement too that says if I can enrich the life, and I call it of a differently abled person. I tend not to use disability because I think we all have abilities. They're just different. I mean, I'm special because my mom told me I was special. You know, we're just all different. We all have some sort of ability, but it's just different. I'm going to try to put out as many dogs as I can because it's kind of that whole starfish story where if you throw that one starfish back into the ocean, you made a difference for that one starfish. If I can make a difference for one more child, that's what I'm going to do. With y'all's help, I've met many of you throughout the community, and I've sat on a lot of boards here in the Greenville area and across the state. You probably see me with my various dogs. I use many of you for resources and stuff, and I reach out to you for fundraising. All of this is by fundraising. I don't charge people money for it. I ask families to help with the fundraising because I think they have to have some vested interest in it. But I ask them to fundraise. I don't ask them to write a check. I do have some grant people that have been very faithful grant providers to me that will buy the puppies for me. All of my dogs, because of Sitka, come from a breeder that have guarantees on them. So eyes, ears, eyes, heart, elbows, hips. My Goldens and Labs all have. I do use shelter dogs, but they will come out of the shelter, and I have agreements with all the shelters that they'll come out, they'll stay with my trainers for 6 weeks, we'll talk about temperament, and then I still do x-rays on their hips to ensure that they have good hips, because I'm not going to put a dog in someone's home and 3 months later they have hip dysplasia. It's not fair. It's not fair. Dogs can still get sick, as we all do, so I'm not going to set them up for failure. So I do everything that I can to set them up with a healthy animal. And then I require them to have their annual vaccinations and stuff as well. So I try to set it up to be successful. So I don't have PowerPoints. I certainly can do all that stuff, but sometimes when you speak from the heart and you just speak from what you know, and it becomes a very personal story, people like to hear that stuff, and they like to see that stuff. And usually when I come with 2 big fluffy golden retriever puppies, that's usually my big hit, but I just don't have them today. But I can show you some tricks that she does. She can play dead really good. Well, she's actually kind of playing dead now, but but I mean, she does. She plays dead. We teach them tricks too, because all the kids want to show another kid tricks. They all want to shoot their dog, and the dog falls over and plays dead. We shoot all of them. Okay. Every one of them knows how to play dead by shooting. There's something about little boys and guns. They all want to shoot their dog. So we all do the play dead thing. We teach them all how to high five. That's another one. They all want to know how to high five. We all teach them a snuggle. We all teach them how to bark on command. And those are things that they give back again. It's a communication. It's that kind of finding a friend for that moment. And so we do teach them how to do some of those tricks too. So they can be something fun. In your information package, I gave you 2 things. One is, first of all, obviously I've found a few typos I gotta circle and fix. And I'm surprised my lower board of directors didn't catch it, but I excuse the typos in my information sheet. In there are the types of dogs that we do provide. So if you know somebody that's looking for a dog, they can reach me through my website. That's the best way to reach me, is through the website. Then I'll send applications to them. And then 3 times a year we do a meet and greet with the trainers, and we talk about what we provide and what's realistic. Because dogs are not toasters. You just don't pull them off a shelf and then this is how they work. A dog is still a dog. And some people just think, I'm going to give you $5,000. I'll write a check today, and well, you give me a dog tomorrow, and I want it to be absolutely perfect, and they are not. They are still going to have an accident in the middle of the grocery store by the meat section. Trust me, that happens. Okay? So we talk about realistic expectations in our meet and greets, and so we do those 3 times a year, and then we go through a formal application process. I have the right to be choosy and picky because I want this to be successful. Okay? So there's certain things that I do provide. I don't do seizure alert, and that is because there's only about 4 organizations throughout the country, which I know very well. They do it very well. We have not mastered it well. We've done it, we just don't do it well, and if I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it. I do balance work really well, I do retrieval work really well, just not going to do that really well. I have enough to do what I'm doing. And then I put another handout with you too, because many people ask me, can you train your own personal dog? Yeah, you can. Many organizations won't, but there's pros and cons with that. It's just like when you send your kid to school and the teacher says, your kid is an angel in school, and then they come and they magic marker all over your walls at home and they're a terror. Well, it's the same thing with the dog. They're an angel in the classroom, but when they're at home, they go back to the same old habits. So when you train a personal dog, many times we don't pick up the same rules. And so there's some conversation about that in the other handout about training of personal dogs. Well, we have done personal dogs as well. And not every dog wants to be a service dog. They don't all want to work. Not every dog wants to work. And that's why people want to say, I've got this doodle, or I got this Bernese Mountain Dog, or I got this Pit Bull, or whatever, and I want you to train it. They don't all want a job. And genetically, they shouldn't all have a job in the service dog world. So I talked a little bit about why certain breeds are better than others. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
I have two questions. One, where do you get your trainers? And the second one is, do you provide some kind of certification for the dog?
I sure do, yes. So we are part of an organization called Assistance Dog International. Assistance Dog International is like our association, and with that comes a public access test, and reputable organizations will follow that. It's about a 7-page demonstration that the dog must pass with the trainer and then with their partner, and the partner must demonstrate that they can do those items with the dog. Once the dog then passes that with the trainer, then I issue a card. The ADA does not require that they have the card, but I will tell you, if you have the card, we are part of supporting legislation to have a certified card, as well as having identification on the vest of the organization that trained it. The card, this one has to be updated actually, should have the partner's picture on it as well as the dog and when it was certified. Okay, and so my cards are PVC printed, so that they, there's a lot of people that put their dogs in their pocketbooks and their service dogs, as we know. Emotional support dogs are not protected under ADA because in order to be a service dog, you have to perform a skill or a task. You may not ask someone what their disability is, but you may ask, what does the dog do for you? And if they say it provides me comfort, it's not a service dog. It has to actually do something. Okay? In Sitka's case, she was a seizure alert dog and she was a balance dog is really what her 2 tasks were. So I always keep that documentation and that public access test. So if anybody was to question it or there was anything legal on it, I have both of those in my records, and I provide that to the owners as well. The other question you had asked me was, who are my trainers? So I contract with, or I partner with Dog Trainers Workshop in Fountain Inn. Connie Cleveland actually started the first service dog training organization here in Greenville in the late 70s, and she got out of that business. If you Google her, she is actually a world known person that she not only competes, but she has books out and she actually does seminars. She has been 100% successful in all of training my dogs. She knows within about 2 weeks if a dog is not going to make it, and we cut them. I've had very few that have had to be cut because we've done the socialization part first. But I use professional trainers that have had long-standing training criteria. I am not a dog trainer, I'll tell you I never will be. If anybody's interested in puppy raising, on the other hand, that's when you have a puppy and you can socialize them. They stay in your house a couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe a month. They get a little tiny blue vest. It says they're in training. They are protected under ADA while they're in training, and what you're trying to do there is give them good manners.
Can you do that with my 13?